Good morning, Dima.
Hello, Rob. Hi, everyone. Good morning.
Howdy. Hello there. Bienvenidos, I think.
صباح الخير.
Oh, nice one. I wonder what our guest will choose to say hello to the viewers with. What do you think? Could be
Well,
anything.
let's get our guests.
Okay. Well, we're going to add, who are we going to add? A very popular person in Baton Rouge. She's the editor of the Baton Rouge Business Report. Out to lunch. What else, Dima? I mean, she's all over the place.
The amazing thing about Stephanie who's our guest today, is that she generates important discussions in our community. And she helps us to think beyond the norm. And she's so connected with so many different groups that usually don't have a voice, that we may not even see them. And she gives them the voice and she gives them visibility. And that's part of why I love her. So let's get Stephanie.
Let's bring Stephanie on right now. Stephanie Riegel. Thanks for being on the show. This is exciting.
Well, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning to you,
Thank
Stephanie.
you so much. Look, I'm very excited. This is a great format, a great platform.
Well, thank you for being on. I'm so excited. You had me on your show Out to Lunch once, and I was, kind of starstruck. And then we've crossed paths in the Baton Rouge Rotary Club. So this is great. I finally get like one-on-one time with Stephanie.
Well, I appreciate it. I like being on the other side of the mic. So it's a nice treat for me too.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Dima, it sounds like you and Stephanie go way back. Do you kind of want to introduce things a little more and get us started?
Yeah, so I met Stephanie when I first moved to Baton Rouge, and she wrote a few articles about me, which I'm so grateful for. I'm always fascinated, Stephanie, by how you're helping us think beyond just the norm. And that's why I love reading your articles. And I so much appreciate the latest article that you wrote in the business report. And we would like to discuss that with you. What I love is you're featuring individuals or groups that we usually may not be talking about in our daily lives. And you're helping us see beyond again, what we're comfortable with. So let's talk about the article. What has been your experience? Tell us a little more about the interviews and what the article is about.
So the article that you're referencing is really, it's my opinion column. And I have to always say that I'm really appreciative, very genuinely appreciative that the Business Report and Rolf McCollister and J.R. Ball give me a platform to write a column. Especially since I do write a lot of just straight news articles, right? And so it's sort of a fine line. And a lot of times people get confused because they'll see an article that I write in the Daily Report or in the print magazine about what's going on. And then if you flip to the back of it, you'll see an opinion column where I'm not supposed to, like, for instance, come out in favor of or against a particular political candidate or issue, but where I'm just supposed to analyze and give context. And sometimes maybe I don't do that as well as I'm supposed to because I am opinionated, but the one that you reference, it is one of my latest column in the Business Report's June issue that features the influential women in business. And it's about what we call the emerging narrative around the COVID-19 crisis. And as I point out in the column, there is this growing school of thought out there. And I encountered it in talking to different people and in seeing it in Facebook posts. About the fact that those that seem most vulnerable to complications and even death from the disease somehow had a hand in their own undoing because of poor lifestyle choices that they've made. As one person explained to me, it's the Hondas that are getting this. The acronym H, high blood pressure, O, obesity, N, non-compliant with taking their medication, D, diabetic, A, African American. It's the Hondas. This person said, they make poor lifestyle choices. They're like, sorry. And that really struck a chord with me. As I said in the editorial or in the column, there's sort of an implicit cruelty to this. It's not to say that, right, we know that our population and certain segments of our population are more vulnerable because of these pre-existing conditions. That's not the problem. It's the idea that they willfully chose the choices that led to those conditions, right? They decided that they wanted to drink sugary soft drinks or fatty foods just because they were lazy or because it tasted better than eating, a kale salad. And that's what I really have issue with, because I mean, I know just as many people from really well-heeled backgrounds that had every advantage in the world, and they made a lot of poor lifestyle choices, right?
Oh yeah.
And I argue that people that come from underserved communities were behind the 8 ball from the beginning, right? And they never really had people to show them and to teach them over and over and over again, because it's not something you just pick up in a public service announcement on TV. It's the kind of thing that your parents have to tell you from day one about why these things matter and why you have to live a healthy life. And some people are just genetically predisposed to having trouble anyway, right? So that's really what's at the heart of the issue.
It's an interesting viewpoint. What are the reactions? Are they good? Are they bad? Are they sort of in the middle? I mean, some people probably don't like to hear this, right? Some people haven't heard of this before, so it's new to them. And like you said, that starts with dialogue at the dinner table or within your family circles or your friends. So, I mean, how's it been received?
Well, I've gotten many nice comments, emails, phone calls from people who did appreciate the message. And one man in particular, and really it made me tear up when I saw it, because he wrote the other day and he said, "Thank you so much, for pointing this out." He said, "Our son has Down syndrome, and as a result of that, developed leukemia and is finishing up what has been a successful chemotherapy. But because of the Downs, he's predisposed to be overweight, and there's nothing, that we can do about it as his parents. But we love him so much, and he's been a joy in our lives and to the lives of everybody else who know him. And so to suggest that his life is expendable because he's got some diseases is just so hurtful." And, and I just thought of a family that I know that has a young adult Down syndrome child who also developed leukemia. And, and then you realize these are real people. And, we've gotten, I think there are a lot of us that are just sort of cavalier. Oh, well, old people die from COVID. Oh, well, sick people die from COVID. So, we're not old and sick. It doesn't really matter. And that's really the mentality. So, of course, the debate on the comment section of the business report, where the editorial ran, it's generated a robust debate. I try not to read the comments too closely, because I really don't, because it'll just drag you down, but I've skimmed them, and there are dozens and dozens and dozens of them, and they keep coming. And it has really devolved into a racial debate. And there were a lot of ugly racial comments that I saw on there yesterday when I last looked. And then there were a lot of people who were taking the other position. So I would say it's been mixed.
Wow. It's interesting when we hear statistics. I just don't like it, because these statistics are human. They have stories, they have experiences, and all of this. So when you were talking about the Honda group, they're loved by their families. There are so many people people don't want to see them sick, but somehow we just end up looking at them as statistics.
Yeah, attaching a name to that makes it a little more personal, right? It might take longer. We could be there for days, but these are people. And the story that you told too, Stephanie, that kind of helps people connect and relate to it too, right? They probably know someone else that has a family with a disability, or have gone through these struggles, and instead of triumphs, we're over here, with the keyboard jockeys, and yeah, it gets racial, and yeah, I'm glad you bring this up. So, is it good that we're starting the dialogue, regardless of which kind of direction it's going? People are talking, or does it get clouded because things kind of get negative really quick? And how do you guard yourself? Because it isn't part of this just bringing awareness to this issue, and that worked, right? That worked.
Oh. My connection was bad. So you're no, I mean, you were cutting out a little bit, but I think I heard most of what you were saying, and I hope you can hear me.
We got you.
But I do, good. I do worry about this. I felt good after the initial panic of this whole pandemic in those weeks in late March, when it seemed like everybody stepped up to the table, and I felt like the adults were in the room, in Congress, and even in those corners of the media that have been so sort of partisan in their approach to everything. And I felt like, okay, we really are pulling together. You know, even Congress passed these huge relief packages to help, you know, and I felt like maybe we'll get through this. And so quickly to see how this has devolved into the same old familiar battle lines, the same old partisanship. And I don't know. I wish I did know. I feel like it's important to have the discussion. I mean, I think the thing is, this disease really does, it maybe appears like it's discriminating, but there are plenty of young people that get it too. There are plenty of people that, as I point this out in the column, do everything right and are fit and healthy and professional and white and eat right. And they get very sick from it too. You just don't know. And everybody has a great grandmother, right? And so everybody's going to know people who perish from this. I mean, Boris Johnson got it, right? It's going to happen. And so maybe that will be a unifying force. But I just, you think too about the needs and all of the problems that were out there before that were so great, right? And the poverty and the educational outcomes, the migrant and refugee crises, how this is just going to make those so much worse. And that to me is so troubling too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the refugees. I know you're connected with a lot of refugees in the Baton Rouge area, and you're constantly supporting them and providing help. So tell us more about the group that you're interacting with, and how are they doing right now?
Well, I mean, so far, again, I think people are doing okay. I think, and I wrote this in an actual story that was in the same issue of the Business Report. I think the next month or two is going to be a lot harder in a way. I mean, I think when everybody was staying home, when the government relief checks were coming through, I mean, the unemployment benefits, there's safety net here, and we've been able to successfully manage the curve and slow the spread. And that's all been very good. And we've even been blessed with this unseasonably beautiful Southern California style weather. So people have been outside, they're reaching out to their neighbors. It's really, there have been some little good things that come from this amidst the suffering, right? But I think as we move into a long, hot summer and the government checks start to run out and Congress devolves into the same old partisanship, and you hear the ugly things coming out of the media from both sides. And all of a sudden the bank deferment periods that were good for 90 days are going to start running out at the end of June. I mean, that's one thing real estate people are worried about, because then that's going to put pressure on landlords, who are then going to have to start putting pressure on the tenants. And you think about how many little retail tenants, they're very worried, even though we've moved to this phase 1 opening now that begins on Friday. How can a business or a restaurant really make it on 25% occupancy? The numbers don't work, right? I mean, if you have a 3,000 square foot dining room and you can only have 10 customers in there or fewer, it doesn't work, right? So when those chickens kind of come home to roost, I think it's going to be really, really difficult for a lot of people. And I think it's going to get a lot harder before it gets easier, particularly if then we see the cases spike and the healthcare system become overrun to the point where they start talking about canceling school in August. I think people will freak out, especially in these parts. I mean, there are places in the country, just like in Europe, where they're maybe better able to handle that. But down there, no, people aren't going to take it very well.
Well, you make a good point, because one of your other article, Baton Rouge businesses can legally reopen, but is it worth it? That's to your point, right? I mean, if you can only let 10 people in or 15 people in, and 5 of those people are staff, can you be profitable opening up?
Yeah.
And then now you're having to add PPE on top of that. Maybe you're cleaning more, everything takes longer, you have less space now.
Yeah.
Less space occupied. You need to fill up those seats. That's how you make your money. So I think that's, what I worry about, Stephanie, and
right.
I don't know if you share the same concerns, or if you've had any of this, witnessed any of this, but I really want to believe that everyone's doing the right thing, but it's also kind of maybe troubling if a business has been closed for 2 months or so. Are they going to really pay attention to the occupancy, or are they going to let that van of 5 to 8 people that just pulled up, are they going to, they're going to tell them no? That's tips, that's revenue. And I want all the businesses to come back, but I think we need to do this smartly. So do you worry about maybe there being some bending of the rules, and maybe, the patio's creeping up into the bar right now? Sure. Because, we've said Friday it's opened up. What's your thoughts on that?
No, I think those are very legitimate concerns. And the business owners that I've been talking to this week, just since the governor's announcement on Monday, they're very concerned about that. I mean, of course, I speak to a handful of them. They don't speak for the entire market. But I mean, when you consider that they're worried that their customers may not follow through, that their customers are going to push the envelope, right? So, I mean, it has to be a partnership, right? A collaborative effort. And in addition to that, though, they have to worry about liability. So, I mean, if we're talking about somebody bending the rules, I would suspect that the cheating is going to come more on the part of the customers, right, than on the part of the business owner, because they really have to worry about their legal exposure. This could be a field day for the trial bar down the line. And I know the legislature is trying to address that right now, but there are so many potential lawsuits that could come. And if a business is being just wantonly disrespectful of the rules that have been put in place under an executive order by the governor of the state, then yeah, I mean, their butt's on the line. So they kind of have to do their best to comply. Plus, it's in their long-term best interest to keep everybody safe, for their branding, for their image, of course, and so that we can get to phase 2 when they'll be hopefully allowed to have 50% occupancy. I think, though, too, I mean, I wonder about the collective mentality of the people, to want to go back out, particularly to bars and restaurants and things like that. I mean, you may be able to, you got to go get a pair of running shoes, so you'll go to varsity sports and you'll be happy if everybody. Same thing with the drugstore. But I mean, do you really want to go sit in a nice restaurant and you can't visit with your friends and you can't bring everybody you want to bring? You're out and you got to worry about PPE, and then you're looking at the plate and the fork you're eating off of and you're going, is this really clean? And the ambiance, I mean, it kills the ambiance. The part of going to eat fun is that it's relaxing. And to be constantly reminded of the COVID is not relaxing, and that troubles me, because I don't know how, but I have heard that, from other businesses. I mean, that's something that they're worried about.
Yeah. And, I totally agree with everything you said. And you hinted it's not just the compliance of the business owner, it's the compliance of the customers too. And watching the news and watching some individuals that are resisting wearing a mask when they walk into, let's say, Target, or shooting which is so sad, the person who's trying to tell them to social distance. That is what scares me the most. So of course, the business owners, they need to do their part, and it is very challenging. But also dealing with individuals that are not compliant, like they're not following the rules.
I see people all over Baton Rouge, and it's increasingly become a political thing, right? Depending on which network you watch, whether you wear a mask or not. And this, to me, is very public. Now, I will say, I try to think through the whole mask thing, and it confuses me a little bit, because at the beginning of this pandemic, they said that masks didn't, and that the masks were no good against the COVID unless it was an N95, but don't wear an N95 because we have to save them for healthcare workers. Fine, but then if that's the case, then do regular masks work? I mean, common sense would dictate that it does, but I really think that message that was out there early from our own CDC kind of screwed things up and gave a lot of ammunition to people that were skeptical about this to begin with. But I mean, I was really bothered so much by a legislative task force that was created by some business leaders who were miffed that they were not invited to be part of Governor John Bell Edwards' Resilience Commission. So they formed their own legislative task force called a Louisiana Economic Recovery Task Force. And they've been meeting for 3 weeks. They've got a really respectable group of like 50 business leaders to talk about things the legislature can do to reopen. And the first 2 meetings on Thursdays were virtual. So all 50 people were alone in their offices or houses meeting like we are. Last week, the leader of the group.
I think we lost you.
I want to hear that part.
I think what she was saying was the leader was, yeah, I don't know what she was saying. So we're going to have to wait till she comes back.
What did the leader do? What did the leader do?
What would the leader do, Stephanie? I'm on the edge of my chair, literally.
I want to know. Wow.
Oh my goodness.
It is like a very interesting conversation, because when we're thinking about it, even if we're protecting ourselves and protecting our family, we are being influenced and affected by everybody in the community and their decisions. Hello, Stephanie. What did the leader do?
Okay. Sorry. I switched to Wi-Fi. I hope. No? Can you hear me?
That'll be good.
Yeah, now.
You think we're good?
Yes.
Yep.
Anyway, sitting at this table, none of them were wearing a mask. And they were sitting shoulder to shoulder, like as if it was all times, but the optics were very, very, this was clearly orchestrated to communicate the point that we're not scared, we're not wearing masks, and we're conducting as usual. Means we're having this, pandemic planning session. And they were meeting with other people around the state, but it was just so disturbing to me to see in the legislature. I haven't been to the Capitol because I think it's probably a petri dish and not the best place to go. But depending on which party you belong to, you're either wearing a mask or you're not. It's crazy.
It is nuts.
That's the way I see it, really.
Oh man, seeing that in the news and in the articles and the pictures of it online, I know it's a lot to ask leadership to be consistent. I know it's tough to, be honest and have integrity and do the right thing. But when you're looking at all these different layers of leadership and how they seem to have different messaging, it's not clear, some contradictory, some it's confrontational, and it just rubs me the wrong way. We should be forgetting about all that stuff and unite as a human race right now. I wish we could just. I know it's tough, and I know people are going to do what they're going to do. We cannot expect people to do what we tell them to do, right? They have their own free will. But it's just tough when you think security and safety is at stake, that we can't all rally around that.
Well, such a huge part of it, I think, is really media. And it depends on which media you watch. So almost 40% of the country is watching one media that's making fun of them or suggesting that it's folly or that it's politically motivated. And people really believe this. It is going to be the undoing of. And you think about the successful public health campaign of the past 2 decades. In our lifetimes, right? We've convinced people that smoking is totally taboo, right? Drunk driving, right? You look at attitudes around this, it's tremendous that people's attitudes have changed wholesale in just 20 or 30 years. Why can't we do it around something like this? I don't know.
Yeah.
But it does worry me for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really easy here. I'll talk to my friends in New York or, maybe people in California, and they have a very different outlook. But we are deep in red stuff. There's this partisan right streak and individualism and libertarianism and distrust of government, and nobody's going to tell me what to do. And that's alive and well here, unfortunately, I think.
Yeah. So, Stephanie, on a brighter note, tell us, I know in your situation, you're excited that your family, they're all with you, which is wonderful. I can feel how much a blessing it is to be around family during this time. So, how are you doing? How are your children?
Well, they're wonderful. I mean, I have 3 young adult children, and they were all off doing their thing when this happened, and we were able to get them all back home. So we've all been together now for almost 8 weeks, and it really has been, for us, a blessing. And it's just been great to spend so much time together. One of my girls was in Ecuador,
Wow.
working for the United Nations, and she had just finished up an internship with them and was getting ready to start another job, and she was so excited about it. But we said, you have to come home or you're going to get stuck there. And of course, Ecuador's had a really hard time with this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she was hoping to be able to go back, but who knows what happens with air travel, right? The other one is a teacher with America in Cincinnati, and they canceled school. So she came back. She's actually going to go back up there next week and kind of clean up her house and classroom and hope, be back in the fall. But her plan is to spend most of the summer here. So we'll get her back before too long. And then my son had just started college, and so he had to come home and finish his year online. But, I mean, my heart bleeds for all their little plans and everything that were disrupted and their friendships. But so many young people, right? I mean, there's an entire generation. I mean, there have been heartbreaks, there have been weddings that haven't happened, and of course, funerals that couldn't happen, and proms and and everybody's suffered, these kind of little small losses that aren't tragic, but they are sad. And it's part of the collateral of this. And it's brought us all together in a lot of ways. But it's caused, so many little sadnesses in others.
Yeah.
And they add up
for
too.
me, I would never want them home under these. I would never want them home under these circumstances. But since they are here, we've made the most of it for sure.
That is so great.
Yeah, it has been good.
Love that. Sounds like they're quite worldly, right? They're moving around, movers and shakers there. You're doing something right. Did I hear Teach
Well,
for America?
the girls went.
The
girls. No, you're very nice. The girls went to Tulane, and Tulane had a great, sort of social justice mission. They were very involved in a lot of the service learning, I think is the word I was looking for, that they stress there a lot. So even from their freshman year, they got real involved in the community. It's great. It's really, really great. So now they're out there giving back.
That's wonderful.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, and it's nice. It's nice for them to spend time together. I'm sure they don't get this opportunity in regular life to spend so much time together.
It's definitely been good. It's definitely been good. I mean, I know that a lot of the business people I talk to, don't have it so good, and I do feel for them. I mean, the other part of this narrative is that the people who want to reopen the economy are not necessarily greedy or horrible. I mean, we have to get people back to work. I mean, there's no question about that. Ultimately, the starvation, right? I mean, is going to be worse than the COVID itself. But it's just a question of how to get people back to work safely, But I know for a lot of small business owners, and we do talk to a lot of small business owners, at the business report, it's been really, really difficult, and they're terrified. And when somebody's worked, for decades trying to put something together and, and make payroll for a handful or a couple of dozen people, to see that, gravely threatened or just disappear is just got to be terrifying.
Absolutely. Yes. All the investments in marketing and PR and new products, and now everything is on pause. It's tough.
Everything is on. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I wondered.
Go ahead.
No, what were you going to say?
No. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, I wondered about the travel piece. I was listening to a task force meeting yesterday of the Resilient Louisiana Commission. That's the governor's group, not to be confused with the other group. And they do wear masks and they do meet virtually at a distance.
Stephanie, what's the other group? Because we have a Facebook user that would like to know what the name of that other task force was.
The Resilient Louisiana Commission and the Louisiana Economic Recovery Task Force.
Louisiana Economic Recovery Task Force. Got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, but the Resilient Louisiana Commission's, it was the hospitality group, and they're talking about, you know, how to get people back to the state. And I mean, if you read the national news, like there aren't even any air flights anymore, right? I mean, like 90% of flights around the country, around the world, have been cut. So I mean, just as a practical matter, you know, and when are people going to feel safe getting on a plane again to take care of business or to go see their mother or sister, much less just go off to New Orleans for a weekend of partying in bars and music festivals? I mean, to me, you know, but even when you look at the higher ed piece, I mean, how does a school like Tulane, where, you know, 75-85% of their kids come from out of state?
Yeah.
How are those kids going to get here in the fall? I mean, literally, and they come from all over. And most of their students that are paying full freight tuition come from China and overseas. I don't know. I mean, so people talk about like as if reopening bars and restaurants and salons and gyms is going to repower the economy. I mean, it's going to start up a small little piece of the economy, but the whole global picture is so disrupted and totally screwed up right now. It's going to take a whole lot more than that. I mean, you know, we're hanging a lot of hope on the gyms and the hair salons to get everybody back to work. It doesn't work that way, you know?
Yeah, it is so overwhelming to think of the magnitude and to think about everybody that has been impacted now. Yeah, wow.
Now, I know I had some trips planned, and maybe this is going to be the new or the, you know, the resurgence of rediscovering the 50 states, because I don't know if I feel comfortable sitting that close to someone that I don't know and that many people on a flight for hours with air recirculating and all that mess. You know, it's going through the airport's already an experience. Mm-hmm. But I wonder if this means people will drive more. You know, I wonder if we're going to get the drive-in movie theaters back and stuff like that. I mean, could we see some silver linings along that, I guess, those regards? Because I guess consumer confidence might be a little low to go back right to where we were, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And hats off to the people who are not afraid of this. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think we yeah, I mean, I think it does give you, it at least gives me some encouragement, is to see the, you know, I mean, the level of investment, the level of know-how, whatever's going on in political arenas, you know, there's a science behind this, and we know more than ever before about how to fight pandemics and develop vaccines, and on that front. And look, they're going to come up with a vaccine and it's going to work. The problem is, as a practical matter, even if they came up with one foolproof tomorrow, how long would it take to ramp up production? And how long would it take to scale that up, to actually get those little shots into the hands of providers that could, you know, inoculate billions of people, right? Or even just hundreds of millions in this country? It would take a long, long time, even if everybody got in line this afternoon, just the sheer numbers. And so that's why I think it's a little bit fallacious for people to say, oh, well, they'll have a vaccine by the end of the year. Maybe, but how long will it take you, Rob Wise, to get in line to get that shot? You know, they'd have to wait until March, until it's at your, you know, doctor's office or your Walgreens or whatever. So, I think that's, but I mean, coming up with solutions, Street is going to come up with solutions and new protocols and ways to make it safer to fly. But I think it's going to be a couple of years really before it's sort of back any kind of normal. And really, as far as I'm concerned, air travel hadn't been normal since 9/11. I mean, when you got to stand in line and take off your belt and your shoes, every time I go to TSA, like, what are we doing? This is crazy. One day we're going to look back on this and laugh, you know?
Yeah.
Or cry. I don't know. It's going to get worse. And I think too, it's going to get more expensive.
Yeah.
It's going to get a lot more expensive, and they're going to have to space people out and put seats in between us. So I think you'll see fewer people flying for sure. And maybe we will. We'll get out in the car and enjoy the great outdoors. Billy Nungesser, the lieutenant governor, in fact, had said he was going to introduce an incentive today at a press conference with the governor that is going to give people, starting this weekend, mind you, a 4th free night stay in a Louisiana state park. If you book 3 nights, you get a 4th night free. So they're already encouraging people to get out and start enjoying the great outdoors as soon as now.
We did that a few months ago. It was fabulous. It was absolutely fabulous.
Yeah.
We went to Percy Quinn, little, right past the state line. It was amazing. Highly recommend doing that. I mean, getting away now, that seems like the only place you can get away and not really touch anything because you're in nature, and the likelihood of you crossing, 6 foot of you and a raccoon's probably good, but not necessarily the next person who's unmasked. So,
well, I love
unless that's a Halloween, Halloween themed thriller right there.
No, I love, not camping so much in tents, but hiking, state park vacations. Of course, the irony of all this is that while we're encouraging people to enjoy our state parks, the legislature is going to have to slash the budget in ways that we haven't seen, in maybe 30 years or worse. And, state parks are always on the list, right? It's going to be ugly. The Revenue Estimating Conference met earlier this week. They're projecting like $1 billion shortfall for next year. And where does that money come from, right? Higher ed and
education,
things like state parks, museums. Yeah, it's terrible. So not what we need now, but maybe if people can't go anywhere else, the state parks will be spared.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier about flights. My concern, because I used to travel a lot, is not just the flights, it's the hotel. Like, can you imagine going to a hotel room and you don't know who was there, if they had the virus or not? So that's very scary as well to me. Yeah. So Stephanie.
Well, and I think.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Stephanie. Go ahead.
The connection is just the connection.
No,
Keep going.
I'm sorry. No, I was going to say, I think the hotels are, they're going to develop protocols as well to try to give travelers every bit of confidence, But I mean, will there be demand for you, Dima, to travel to, Salt Lake City or to New York to give a conference? Or maybe now you'll do it by Zoom because Zoom or Chit Chat is easier, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, that is really going to come out of this. We're finding new ways of doing things. And I think the demand for travel is just going to be down so much because people realize they don't have to. Same thing like with office space.
Right.
And market in Baton Rouge, for instance, was soft going into this year. Not bad, but soft. We had too much inventory, more buildings than we had companies coming in, but it was full. Now what's going to happen? We're going to lose some businesses, and other businesses are going to say, you know what? I don't need that much square footage. I need a small storefront, conference room, a place for a couple of key people, and everybody else can work from home.
Right. Yeah.
Y'all must see that a lot, Rob.
Yeah. A lot of change. And it is, in my opinion, it's allowing us to be more creative. It's allowing us to be more cost conscious and to think more of the long term, because anybody who thinks that this is going to go away in a month or two and we're going to go back to what they think is normal, I don't think so. This is going to take a few years for us to recover from. It's a major shock to every aspect of our lives and business.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah.
Agreed. Well, this sure has been amazing. And I know we've got to get Dima off to her next appointment.
Yeah, I'm giving a workshop, a 4-hour workshop. So this was supposed to be in New York City, and now I'm giving it from California to people in New York City. So it's part of us adapting to all of this and continuing to offer value and help others.
That's it. And look, you helped us a lot today, Stephanie. Thank you for bringing.
Well, we're lucky we have the technology that at least works most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time.
Well, thank you.
You did fabulous. There might have been a delay, but you did great today. And just like everything else, under other circumstances, have been amazing. And we want to probably have you back so we can talk,
Yes.
in clear communicado there, because you have some great things to share, Stephanie. Thank you so much for being on the show today. This really has been awesome. Everybody check out the Greater Baton Rouge Business Report. It's at businessreport.com. Stephanie does amazing work over there. She's also an amazing, Rotary Club Baton Rouge member who's having a live stream today. So all you members check out there today. But look, our show, Chit Chat with Dima and Rob, is on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 o'clock. So like, share, and comment on this. We really appreciate your time.
We all thank you so much.
Yeah, let's all give
pleasure.
a wave goodbye and a thank you to Stephanie for coming in today, because we know she's been busy keeping on top of all this stuff. Have a good one, everybody. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.